Alex stood at the edge of the docking bay, his heart pounding like a drum in his chest. The station hung in the black sky, a ring of silver lights and steel plates. He had never seen anything so grand, yet he felt more unsure than ever. The High Council had made it clear no human was allowed to meet Princess Leia, but Alex could not let that stop him. He had to see her if only for a moment. He took a slow step forward, his boots clicking on the metal floor. Around him, alien merchants and diplomats moved in quiet purpose. Alex kept his emotions hidden under a calm face. He told himself this was just another mission like any other. But inside he trembled. He had trained for years to serve as a human envoy. This was supposed to be his moment to shine. Instead, he was an outlaw in their eyes. As he passed under the great banner of the station's emblem, the lights shifted from cold white to warm gold. He paused, looking up at the symbol of the alien monarchy. Its two wings spread wide around a crystal heart. It shone with gentle light. "They say the princess's heart is even purer," a diplomat whispered nearby. Alex felt a flicker of hope. Maybe she would remember him from the message he had sent. Maybe she would understand. He crept along the corridor toward the grand audience hall. Guards in dark armor stood at every corner, their helmets reflecting the glow from the ceiling. Alex knew he would have to be careful. If they caught him on any restricted level, they would drag him away. But he moved like a shadow, keeping to the walls and avoiding the guard patrols. His uniform was new and neat, but he wore a hood over his head to hide his human face. The corridor opened into a wide chamber full of pillars and soft lights. At the far end, two guards blocked the ornate doors to the audience hall. Alex slowed his pace. This was as close as he might get. He pressed his back against the pillar and waited. The guard on the left shifted his weight and looked down the hall. Alex held his breath and kept still. After a moment, the guards moved. To check a loose stone on the floor, Alex saw his chance. He slipped past them, his heart thundering. He walked quickly but quietly to the doors. They were carved from pale metal and decorated with scenes of ancient battles and royal ceremonies. Alex reached out with a trembling hand and felt the cool surface. He wondered what she looked like. In his mind, he saw the portrait he had received. Tall and graceful, with silver blue hair that glowed in the light, he touched the edge of the door. But before he could push it open, he heard voices. Two high-ranking officials passed behind him, talking in low tones. "The king will not forgive any trespass," one said. "He fears human influence," the other replied. Alex's hand froze, pressed his body against the wall, clutching his hood tighter. The officials walked on, unaware of his presence. His relief was brief and shallow. When they were gone, Alex straightened and forced himself to open the door. Moved with a soft hiss, revealing the vast hall beyond. Rows of seats curved around a raised platform. At its center stood the throne, empty now. Sunlight spilled through the windows and danced on the polished floor. Alex stepped inside, scanning the space. He felt the weight of 100 eyes, even though no one watched him. Anticipation stretched every nerve. He took a few steps forward, studying the throne. The carvings on its armrests told stories of peace and unity. He wondered if Princess Leia believed in those stories. He whispered under his breath, "I hope so." As he neared the platform, alarms began to chime softly. Alex froze, panic rising. The lights shifted to red. He knew guards would rush in any moment. He looked back toward the doors, wanting to flee. Then he heard a gentle voice behind him. "Please, don't run." Alex spun around. A woman stood there, her gown flowing like liquid moonlight. Her hair caught the red light and seemed to glow. She held out her hand, palm open and calm. It was Princess Leia. Her eyes were bright and curious, not harsh or angry. Alex's breath caught in his throat. He felt as if he stood before a living. Starred at his mind raced. How did she find him so fast? Why did she trust him? He struggled to find words. Finally, he managed a quiet, "I'm sorry." She shook her head gently. "You did not plan to disobey the council," she said. Her voice was soft but certain. "You came because you believed in something we all need." She stepped closer, her gaze steady. "Run with me." Alex stared at her open hand, his pulse pounding in his ears. Beyond her, he saw guards gathering at the doors, swords drawn. Without a second thought, he reached out and took her hand. Her grip was firm and warm. He felt a calm settle in his chest. Together, they turned away from the throne. Alex followed the princess through the hall as alarms sounded louder. He saw diplomats and nobles rising from their seats, confusion and fear in their eyes. Alex's mind raced with questions, but he did not speak, trusted her to lead. Princess Leia guided him to a side door hidden behind a tapestry. She pressed a small button on the wall. The door slid open, revealing a narrow passage lit by pale green lights. Alex stepped in, feeling the cold air sigh around him. He felt as if he had passed through a veil into another world. Princess Leia closed the door behind them and led the way down the corridor. The walls were smooth and cool, lined with faint runes that glowed softly. Alex followed, his eyes wide with awe. He had thought this station was the limit of alien creation. Now he saw there was more. She glanced at him, her silver blue hair falling over one shoulder. "You have courage, Alex," she said, "and a kind heart. We need both." Alex swallowed. Barely knew her, but he believed her words. They walked. In silence for a while, the distant echo of alarms behind them. Alex listened to his own breath and the soft hum of the station around them. Fear still fluttered in his stomach, but he felt a spark of hope too. He squeezed Princess Leia's hand. She looked down at him and smiled. "Stay close," she whispered. "We must reach the old maintenance shafts. I know a path that will take us outside the station." Alex nodded, his fear turning to fierce determination. He would follow her anywhere. As they turned a corner, he took one last look at the world. They left behind the glimmering palace, the flashing lights, the throne that had waited empty. His new destiny lay ahead, guided by the hand of a princess who dared to break the rules. Alex and Leia moved quickly through the narrow maintenance corridor. The pale green lights overhead cast long shadows on the smooth walls. Alex's heart pounded in his chest, but he focused on each step. Leia led the way, her grip on his hand. Steady and sure. She paused at a junction, listening. Where in the distance, he heard the faint hum of patrol drones searching the tunnels. Leia pressed a finger to her lips and pointed down the left passage. They hurried down the hall, turning corners in near darkness. The runes on the walls glowed softly, giving just enough light to see. Alex marveled at the technology around him. He had seen many starships, but this hidden network felt alive, as if the station itself breathed. He tried to memorize every turn, every panel for later. After a few minutes, Leia slowed. She knelt by a grate in the floor and began to work on its lock. Alex knelt beside her, offering his tools. They fit together like two halves of a puzzle. With a soft click, the grate lifted, revealing a dark shaft below. Leia shone a small light downward. "This leads to the old cargo hold," she said. "From there we can reach the exterior vents." Alex looked down into the shaft.
Ow.
It was narrow, cramped, and covered in dust. He swallowed. "I'm ready," he said. Leia smiled and jumped in, landing silently. Alex followed, curling his legs to fit. The shaft sloped downward, slick with age. He slid for a short distance until they reached a ladder. Leia climbed up and opened a hatch above. She helped Alex up, and they emerged in a long, deserted cargo bay. The bay was huge, with rows of rusted containers and broken crates. Lines of wiring hung from the ceiling. Dust lay thick on the floor. Light filtered in through small grates. High on the walls, Alex coughed as they stepped onto the floor. The air felt stale. He wiped his mouth and followed Leia toward a distant opening. They walked past stacks of old crates, some marked with faded symbols. Alex spotted a fallen transport. Drone and wondered how long it had sat here. Leia paused beside an empty container. "This station was alive once," she said softly. "Now it sleeps in these forgotten halls." Alex nodded, imagining the sounds of activity that must have filled this place long ago. As they crossed the bay, Alex heard voices echoing far ahead. He froze. Leia placed a hand on his shoulder. Stay calm, she whispered. They crouched behind a crate and peeked around the corner. Two maintenance workers in dusty uniforms were arguing. One held a datapad. The other pointed toward the main corridor. We need to report the breach, the first worker said. The council will want answers. The second worker shook his head. We are not knights or guards. We fix machines. Let the soldiers handle them. Leah's eyes narrowed. We can't risk being spotted, she said. Alex's mind raced. He needed to reach the vent shaft before soldiers arrived. Leah pointed to a low tunnel beneath the crates. Through. There, she said. Leads to the air vents near the exterior hatch. He crept forward, staying low. When the workers turned their backs, Alex and Leah darted across the open floor and slipped into the tunnel. The tunnel was barely a crawl space. Alex pressed his cheek to the ground and inched forward. Dust rose around him like mist. Leah followed, her robe brushing the floor. After a tense minute, they saw a faint light ahead. Leah reached a panel and tapped a sequence on a small keypad. The panel slid open, revealing a vent. She climbed up and waited for Alex. He followed, pulling himself into the narrow duct. Inside the vent, they stood upright. The air was cooler, filled with the scent of recycled oxygen. Small perforations in the vent walls let in shafts of light. Alex looked down at the station. Below, from here, he could see the polished exterior walls and the endless field of stars beyond. He pressed his hand to the metal and felt a thrill. They were close. Leah checked her datapad. The external hatch is just ahead, 2 decks above, she said. She tapped on the vent wall, and a panel slid open. A ladder rung appeared. Leah climbed up, and Alex followed. At the top, they found a circular hatch with a manual release. Leah placed her palm on a scanner. A green light blinked, and the hatch unlocked with a hiss. Alex gently pushed the hatch open. A blast of cold vacuum air hissed inside. Stars glowed like diamonds in the void. Below them, the station curved away into darkness. Leah stepped onto the narrow ledge outside the hull. Alex hesitated, then joined her. He held onto a support bar. The station's surface was smooth and cold. He felt the vast emptiness of space press against his suit. Leah pointed toward a small ship docked miles away on the station's outer ring. Its hull was dark and sleek. That ship will take us off this station, she said. It's Captain O's. Me a favor. Alex nodded, his breath steadying. He trusted Leah's plan. They began to traverse the hull, moving hand over hand along a safety rail. Alien glyphs were etched into the metal, symbols of the royal lineage. Alex traced each one with his gloved finger as they passed. The journey was long and exposed, but neither spoke. They concentrated on each movement, the quiet rhythm of their progress halfway across. A sudden flare of light swept the surface searchlights. From guard towers, Alex's heart lurched. Leah gripped him. Hold still, she whispered. They pressed themselves flat against the hull, out of the light's path. The searchlight beam passed overhead, missing them by inches. After a moment, the lights moved on. Leah exhaled and turned to Alex. We must hurry, she said. They continued faster now. Sweat gathered on Alex's brow under his helmet. Felt a jolt of fear each time the rail ended and they climbed around corners. Finally, the ship came into full view. Its boarding ramp extended. 2 figures stood at the entrance, scanning the void. One raised a hand in greeting. Leah waved and shouted through the cum. Hi, we're on approach. The ramp swayed slightly in the station's gravity field. Alex and Leah reached it. A code on its side. It began to move toward them. They grabbed the rail and climbed onto the ramp. When they reached the deck, the ramp retracted. The hatch closed behind them with a soft thump. Inside, the ship's interior was warm and bright. A pilot in a simple jumpsuit approached. You're late, he said with a grin. Leah rolled her eyes. I had passengers, she replied. Alex shook his head in wonder. Felt safe at last. The pilot sealed the hatch and powered up the engines. The ship shuddered as it detached from the station. Alex looked out the viewport at the station's ring, its lights fading. He turned to Leah. She smiled, her silver blue hair glowing in the cabin light. Thank you, Alex said. Leah placed a hand on his arm. We're just beginning, she said. Alex nodded. The stars before them stretched in silent promise. Their journey had only grown more dangerous and more important. Alien wind howled outside as the ship leaped free from the station's gravity field. Inside the cabin, Alex pressed his palm against the cold metal floor, steadying himself as the vessel accelerated. Leia sat at the navigation console, eyes fixed. On the holodisplay, faint lines traced the station's ring before vanishing into the black. The hum of the engines was a constant comfort after the station's alarms. We have some time before the Council sends patrols, Leah said, her voice steady. She tapped a sequence, and a small map projected between them. Distant systems glittered like stars on the display. We'll head to the Draven colony, she explained. I've always been skeptical of the Council. They might help us. Studied the map. He had heard stories of Draven World's frontier outposts where the Council's power waned. Criminals and traitors mixed with honest settlers. Life there could be harsh, but people valued independence. What do we say to get their help? He asked. Leia did not look away from the console. We have proof of the Council's plans to isolate humanity, she said. They want to erase our treaties and seize your planet's resources. That would hurt everyone, humans and aliens alike. Her eyes met his, calm and determined. If we show them the truth, they will stand with us. Alex nodded. He remembered the data chip hidden in Leia's robes, a recording of the Council's secret meeting. The image of the king, his voice cold as ice, demanded absolute control over human trade routes. Alex had risked everything to bring that chip here. Now their chance to expose the Council's betrayal lay in the hands of Draven. Rebels Leia plotted a course through a nebula field. The ship trembled as it slipped between clouds of gas and dust. Alex watched the shifting colors glow on the viewport. The nebula's center pulsed emerald and purple. Stars peeked through gaps like distant lanterns. They moved in silence, each lost in thought. Alex's mind turned to Prince Sorel, an advisor who had backed Lie's reform efforts. Sorel had vanished. After the Council's purge, if he survived, he might guide daring allies to their cause. After hours of flight, the nebula ended. The ship drifted into open space, and a small planet loomed ahead. Broken rings circled its remnants of mining stations long abandoned. This was Draven Prime. Leah tapped her com. Prepare for atmosphere entry, she said. Below, swirling clouds hid the planet's surface. The ship tilted and plunged downward. Under heavy G-forces, Alex gripped the rail. The cabin lights dimmed as the atmosphere thickened. Outside, fiery trails marked their descent. Leah engaged. The retro thrusters and the ship shuddered to a landing on a rocky plateau. Dust rose in red clouds around them. When the engines cut, the cabin fell silent. Leah rose and released her seatbelt. Alex followed. The pilot slid open the hatch, revealing a barren landscape. Jagged rocks jutted from the ground, and two moons. Hung in the bronze sky, a lone figure stood nearby beneath a battered shelter of metal sheets. The Draven scout raised a hand in greeting. Princess Lie, he said in a gravelly voice. You're late. Lie smiled. I'm sorry, she said. We had company. She nodded toward Alex. This is Alex, a human envoy. Carries evidence of the Council's betrayal. The scout's eyes widened as Alex produced the data chip. The scout took it with shaking claws and tapped it on his com device. The screen flickered to life, showing the Council meeting. Alex watched as the scout's expression hardened. This changes everything, the scout whispered. He turned to Leia. You have your allies, he said. Follow me.
House.
They climbed into a waiting vehicle, a repurposed cargo hauler with tank tracks. Leia, Alex, and the scout rode across the rocky plains toward a hidden base. The vehicle rattled over uneven ground, sending dust into the air. Alex peered out at settlements carved into canyons. Banners bearing a gaunt wolf's head flew from stone towers. At the entrance to the base, two guards blocked the path. They wore leather jackets and carried energy rifles. The scout addressed them by name and rank. They stepped aside, recognizing the scout's authority. Inside, the base hummed with activity. Draven fighters trained with makeshift weapons. Engineers worked on ground vehicles. The atmosphere buzzed with purpose. Leah led Alex to a raised platform. In the center of the base, hundreds of Draven had gathered, men and women with stern faces and wary eyes. Leah stepped forward, voice amplified by a simple speaker. "We stand at a crossroads," she began. "The Council plans to crush human worlds and seize our systems. If we do not act, we will all lose our freedom." She handed the microphone to Alex. Alex swallowed. He faced the crowd, heart racing, but he spoke clearly. "I know your world has suffered under the Council's rule," he said. "Humans have watched as you were ignored or oppressed. We stood by for too long. We must stand together. This evidence shows the Council's plans to dominate. Can stop them if we unite." Murmurs rose through the crowd. Alex held up the data chip. "This is more than politics," he said. "This is about our lives and our future." He saw nods among the fighters. Liaison stepped beside him and placed a hand on his shoulder. The crowd fell silent. Then one Draven warrior shouted for freedom. Others echoed him. A roar rose, echoing against the canyon walls. Leah turned to Alex, eyes shining. "They will help us," she said. Alex felt hope bloom in his chest. They had taken the first step, but the journey ahead would be long and dangerous. Still, with allies at their side, they would challenge the Council's power. Together, they would prove that humans and aliens could stand united against tyranny. Leah stood before the Draven Council's war table, its surface scarred by past battles. The room glowed with hollow projections of the alien station and human worlds.
Alex
watched as Leah traced lines on the map with a slender finger. Each line marked a supply route or patrol corridor. The rebels leaned forward, their faces tense and hopeful. "We strike at dawn," Leah said softly. "We target the supply convoy that brings resources to the Council's fortress. If we cut their line, we force them to reassign troops and we gain time to reach the capital." Her silver-blue hair caught the light as she spoke. The Draven commander, a tall figure with weathered skin, nodded. "We will ride out with you," he said. "Our riders know the canyon paths. They will ambush the convoy from both sides." The others murmured in agreement. Alex felt a surge of pride. He had never led troops before, but he stood beside a princess who believed in him. Later, under the orange glow of gas lamps, Alex and Leah walked to a training yard. Draven warriors practiced with energy crossbows and pulse swords. Alex wore simple Gearlight vest and utility belt. Leah moved with grace, testing a new plasma pistol. Alex touched her arm. "Are you ready?" he asked. Leah smiled. "I've never been more ready," she replied. Alex nodded, though nerves fluttered. In his chest, he had to trust his training and Leah's plan. They mounted Draven hover bikes at the edge of the base. Alex took a deep breath as he slid onto the saddle. The bike hummed beneath him, its anti-grav thrusters lifting him a few inches off the ground. Leah mounted hers and linked her come to his. "Stay close," she said in his ear. "Follow my." Alex closed his eyes for a moment, then opened them and guided the bike forward. The others followed in two columns, headlights piercing the dusk. The red sky of Draven Prime glowed behind them as they sped through winding canyons. The convoy route ran along a narrow ridge. Below, a river of molten metal ran through the valley. Dust and heat shimmered in the air. Leah slowed as they crested a ridge, revealing the convoy ahead. 3 heavily armored transports rumbled along the path, guarded by Council soldiers in advanced exosuits. Leah signaled. The Draven riders fanned out, flanking the convoy. Alex felt his pulse quicken as he aimed his pistol at the first transport. The riders raised pulse swords and shouted war cries that echoed off the canyon walls. Leah fired a stun shot at a guard tower, disabling its comlink. Chaos erupted. The convoy guards scrambled as energy crossbow bolts spun into the transports. Engines, Alex fired at the lead vehicle's tires, sending sparks flying. Leah raced past him, firing precise shots that cut through the convoy's power conduits. One transport exploded in a roar of flame and metal. The shockwave rocked the canyon, and dust billowed around them. Alex held on tight as the shock passed. Soldiers dismounted, guns raised. Leah shouted into the "Come, hit them now." The Draven riders charged, swords bright with energy. Alex fired into the soldiers' armor, aiming for joints and weak spots. Some soldiers fell, stunned. Others returned fire with plasma rifles. Alex felt heat on his arm, but pressed forward. Leah fought at his side, her pistol moving like an extension of her arm. After a tense minute, the soldiers broke and fled. The riders pursued, capturing weapons and supplies. Alex looked at Leah, her eyes fierce but kind. She reached out and squeezed his shoulder. "We did it," she said. He nodded, breathing hard. "We did." Leah signaled the victory call. The Draven riders echoed her cry, raising their swords to the sky. The canyon rang with sound. Alex felt tears sting his eyes at the sight. He had never known camaraderie like this. He thought of human worlds waiting for news of their success. As they collected supplies, Leah found the data chip still safe in her pouch. She held it up. "This will reach every rebel outpost," she said. "They will see the Council's weakness." Alex smiled. It struck a blow, but the war was far from over. They loaded the captured weapons onto the bikes. Leah climbed up and tested her "come." "Prepare for departure," she said. The riders lined up and revved their engines. The convoy path was clear now, but Council patrols would soon arrive. They roared through the dust toward the rebel base. Alex felt the wind whip around him, mixing with the scent of burning fuel and stone. He kept pace with Leah, following her. Through tight turns and hidden tunnels, when they reached the base, the riders cheered. Engineers already waited to unload the weapons. Leah rode to the Council's war table. She entered the room with Alex at her side. The holomap now displayed the destroyed convoy and the supply routes in chaos. The Draven leaders clapped and celebrated. Leah raised her hand. "This victory shows what we can do together," she said, "but we must press on. Our next move is the Council's fortress." Her gaze turned to Alex. "Will you stand with me?" Alex swallowed. He remembered his home world, its distant blue oceans and green lands. If he failed, the Council would crush humanity and all who opposed them. He looked into Leah's eyes, filled with trust and hope. "We'll stand with you," he said. Leah smiled and placed her hand on his. The Draven cheered again. Alex felt a deep warmth in his chest. He had found purpose here, at Leah's side. That night, as the base settled into quiet planning, Alex and Leah walked outside. The twin moons rose over the rocky spires. The sky was filled with stars, unmarked by Council satellites. Alex gazed upward. "One day, humans and aliens will share skies like this," he said softly. Leah leaned on his shoulder. "We will make it so," she replied. They stood together, two figures against the vast cosmos. Their journey had taken them from forbidden halls to rebel victories. The path ahead led to the Council's heart, but they would face it as allies, bound by trust and courage. In the silent night, the flames of rebellion glowed bright. Alex and Leah turned back to the base and the war map, ready to write the next chapter of their fight for freedom. The stars shone. Above, silent witnesses to their promise. The morning sun rose weakly over the rebel base, its light barely touching the rocky walls. Alex woke early, dressed in his gear, and met Leah at the edge of the training yard. The Draven riders were already preparing their bikes and weapons. The air smelled of oil and dust. Leah handed Alex a small device. "This is the breacher," she said. "It will open the fortress door for us." Alex examined it. It was simple, but powerful. He nodded and clipped it to his belt. They walked to the war table, where holomages of the Council fortress hovered. The fortress floated above a barren planet, rings of defense satellites circling it like guard dogs. The walls were thick and blank, with only one main gate. Towering turrets bristled with weapons. "We strike at dusk," Leah said. "We'll blind their satellites for a short time. We move then." She traced a path on the holomap. "Our riders will distract the turrets at the east wall. We'll use the maintenance tunnel under the south gate." Alex studied the lines. The tunnel was narrow and patrolled, but the riders will draw the guards away. Then Leia and Alex will plant the breacher on the gate panel. Inside, we push to the command center and broadcast the council's secrets. He looked at Leah's face. She was calm but determined. He felt hope. It would end the council's rule. As dusk neared, the riders formed ranks. Alex and Leia stood. Before them, many faces were human or Draven hybrids. They all believed in freedom. Leia raised her voice. Tonight we strike for our lives and our futures. Ride with courage. Alex and I will follow through the tunnel. When the gate opens, meet us inside. The riders cheered and revved their engines. Dust rose around them like a cloud of rebellion. Alex gripped Leah's hand. She smiled. See you on the other side. She said. The riders sped away toward the east wall. Alex and Leah slipped into the maintenance tunnel. The walls were narrow and lit by dim red lights. Patrol bots rolled past now and then. Leia tapped a code on the COM. Override in 3, 2, 1. The bots froze and powered down. Rolled past without seeing. Alex and Leah glided through. At the end of the tunnel, a heavy door barred their path. Leah placed the breacher on the panel. It hissed softly, and the door slid open. Beyond, a stone corridor led to the fortress interior. They moved quietly, passing empty guard posts. The corridors were cool and silent. Alcoves held ancient statues of past rulers. Alex ran a finger along one statue's base. The stone was smooth from centuries of touch. They reached the gate control room. Inside, a console glowed under dim light. 8 soldiers stood by the wall, chatting. Leah held up a hand. Wait, she whispered. A flash grenade popped open, filling the room with blinding light and loud noise. The soldiers staggered and dropped their rifles. Alex and Leia moved in. They bound the soldiers' hands with simple cuffs they carried. Alex felt his pulse racing, but he kept calm. Leia deactivated the rifles. Secure them here, she said. She turned back to the console and began typing. Alarms began to sound in the distance. The fortress turrets had seen the flash, but the gate control panel unlocked. Leah grinned. Gate opening, she said. Let's go. They ran down a long hallway toward the main gate. The massive doors were sliding open. Alex glanced to the sky and saw the riders storming through the east wall, engaging turrets and soldiers. The fortress shook with explosions. Inside the gate, the riders poured in, meeting Alex and Leia halfway. They joined up and raced toward the command center. The halls echoed with shouts and gunfire. Rebels and humans fought side by side. Alex fired a stun bolt at a guard who blocked their path. Leah helped the guard up and pushed him aside. She never hesitated. They reached the command center door, marked by a silver emblem of the council's crest. Leia placed the breacher on the lock. This time, another hiss and the door swung open. Inside, a large room glowed with holoscreens and data racks. The council's secrets lay here. Cloaked figures hurried to escape, but the rebels surrounded them. Leia strode to the central holoconsole. She tapped commands. Images of the secret meeting flickered to life for everyone to see. Axe pulled up speaker channels across the fortress. The video played on every screen. The king's cold vow to erase humanity's trade rights. Soldiers froze as they watched. Some lowered their weapons. Others stared in shock. Alex watched their faces. He saw doubt and fear. The riders cheered outside the windows. Freedom rang in the halls. Leia spoke into the console's mic. People of the council, your leaders plotted to destroy worlds. Now you know the truth. Join us in ending their rule. Her voice echoed. A hush fell. Then a young officer stepped forward. He saluted and spoke into his COM. I will stand with you.
Ice.
His voice was clear. One by one, more officers and guards dropped their weapons and saluted. Alex felt relief wash over him. The fortress was theirs. They had won this battle. The war for peace had only begun. Leia turned to him, her silver blue hair glowing in the console light. She smiled tiredly. "We did it," she said softly. Alex nodded, placing a hand on her shoulder. "You led us, Princess," he said. Leah shook her head. "We led each other," she replied. Outside, the sky darkened as patrols fled. The riders secured the grounds. The fortress flags were lowered. A new banner rose in their place, a joined emblem of human and alien wings around a single crystal heart. Alex and Leah walked onto a balcony overlooking the courtyard. Soldiers and rebels gathered below, united at last. The wind carried the sound of cheers and the promise of a new dawn. Leah took Alex's hand. "This is the start of peace," she said. "But we must rebuild the council with honest leaders." Alex looked at the cheering crowd. "And you will be their first queen," he said. Leah smiled and squeezed his hand. Together, they watched the stars above, ready to guide their people into a future of trust and unity. The sky was pale with dawn as the new council chambers filled with light. After the long fight, the fortress stood quiet and calm. Rebels and former soldiers moved among the broken walls. They carried debris and replaced flags. Princess Leah watched. From the balcony above, she wore simple robes and a gentle smile. Beside her stood Alex, his uniform slightly worn but neat. They breathed the cool morning air and felt hope rise in their hearts. The banner of unity fluttered in the breeze. Its crystal heart glowed softly, sign of promise for all who saw it. Leah stepped down the stone steps and joined the workers below. She knelt by a collapsed pillar and laid her hand on the rough stone. A builder offered her a hammer. She pounded, gently guiding the workers. Alex moved among the groups, thanking each person for their help. He spoke to Draven engineers about plans for a stable roof. He spoke to human mechanics about power systems. Each time he spoke, he used kind words and clear requests. Simple language helped all to understand. Bridges grew between species as they worked side by side. That afternoon, the first meeting of the new council gathered in the main hall. Delegates from human worlds, Draven colonists, and other allied systems took their seats. The old war table had been replaced with a round platform of warm wood. Leah stood and spoke. Her voice was calm but firm. She said they would rebuild trust and fairness. She promised open dialogue and equal representation. Delegates nodded and murmured approval. Alex recorded the meeting details for the human envoy. Ship. He wrote summaries in plain language so every colony would know the decisions made here. Outside, a small group of children from different planets played in the courtyard. They chased a simple sphere of light that danced with each kick. Draven children laughed as human children joined. Their voices rang together like music. Guards who had once stood in armor now guided the ball. They smiled and let the children run free. The sight warmed the workers' hearts. They paused in their tasks to watch. A young Draven mother lifted her child so he could touch the banner. He giggled and cried out in joy. For the first time, he felt safe in the fortress. Later, Alex led a delegation to the human envoy ship docked on the station's ring. The ship's crew greeted him warmly. Captain Moria, a veteran with soft eyes, offered him tea. Alex told Moria about the council meeting. He said they would share resources and open trade. Moria smiled and said she would carry the news to Earth. Alex thanked her. He looked back at the fortress in the distance. Its walls still bore marks of war, but they stood strong. He felt a surge of pride knowing he had helped to make peace. Leah joined him on the bridge of the ship. She watched the planet drift by and the station's curve on the horizon. She turned to Alex and said every world would receive the council's new charter. She spoke of rebuilding homes, schools, and free markets. She said they would write laws, in plain words so no one would be lost in legal terms. Alex nodded. He said this care for clear speech meant they valued every voice. Leah smiled and reached for his hand. He took it, feeling warmth and strength pass between them as the ship prepared. To depart, a messenger arrived with a sealed letter for Leah. She opened it and read in quiet. Her brow softened. She showed the letter to Alex. It was from Prince Sorel. He wrote that he had survived the purge and gathered loyal knights on a distant moon. He offered his support and asked to join the council. Leah's eyes shone. She folded the letter and tucked it in her robe. Alex placed a hand on her shoulder, said Sorel's arrival would bring balance. Leah nodded and said they would welcome him as a friend. The envoy ship slipped away toward the human worlds. Beneath them, the station's lights turned on in a steady glow. Workers continued to build and repair. The new council held its sessions in simple rooms with clear windows to the sky. Delegates used words of respect and kindness. Each vote was counted openly for all to see. The walls echoed with discussion but no anger. Decisions were made for the benefit of everyone. Trust grew like a slow vine, wrapping around old fears and turning them into promise. That evening, Lau and Alex returned to the balcony. The two moons rose over the rebuilt towers. Stars winked in salute. Rebels and workers gathered below. They sang a song of freedom in many languages. The melody wove through the stones and into the night. Leah rested her head on Alex's shoulder. He put his arm around her. They listened to the song, each note a step toward unity. The air was filled with hope and quiet joy. They stood together as the worlds they loved found peace at last. Before the night deepened, Leah spoke softly to Alex. She said the future held more challenges, but they would face them together. Alex said he believed in her and in the people. They looked out at the shining fortress and the song below. The light of unity burned bright in their eyes. In that moment, they knew the journey they had begun would guide many lives. They held each other close, ready for the new dawn that awaited. Peace was born today, and their promise would carry it forward.